Hey Leah,
Hello, good morning, everyone. How are you?
fantastic. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. And Jake, thank you for being here. We're
You're
excited to have
welcome.
you with us and hopefully impart some of your wisdom as well. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Kathy, Carter, Tamika, Deanna, Cindy. Awesome to see you all. All right. So we have about 25 people registered. I just want to keep an eye on Facebook in case anyone's having a hard time getting in. Good morning, Teresa. All right. Okay. And so this morning I wanted to come together because one of the areas that I think people can use a little assistance in sometimes is knowing how to objectively review their trades. And I know Amy and I did a little session on this a couple of weeks ago. My glasses are fogging up because it's cold outside and I just came in from walking the dog. We did a little session on it and people, well, Mike shared one of his trades and we went over it, and then we went over some of mine. And I can tell you that it is one of the activities or the things that I've been doing that has improved both my trading, but my knowledge of myself and accountability to myself for not just the kinds of trades I'm taking, but it's teaching me about my own behavior and my own mindset when it comes to trades. And so I will share my screen here and let me see here. We'll go to.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly that the reason I pushed things around to get onto this call is because I've watched Leah over this last few months grow incredibly in her trading skills, and her ability and how much she gives to this group and community is absolutely incredible, the value she provides. And I think the reason she's grown so much in the last few months is because of exactly what she's about to share with you today. I've been on the call with Leah a few times and we've spoke about a few different things that she's added to her repertoire of trading. And I think what she's about to share today is one of the key aspects to why she's had such success over the last few months. So I'm really glad I could be here, and I'm really looking forward to what you're going to share with us. And I think if you're on this call, take some notes because this is some very valuable stuff.
Thank you so much, Jake. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you. And one of the things that I appreciate so much is that you've shared mindset. Okay, I have a glitchy camera, but I won't need it very much. Um, so, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I really appreciate that you impart so much mindset with us, and like that you've been so transparent and so honest about some of the challenges that you faced in your own journey. And I think it's really interesting that, like, when I first started learning to trade, you follow some people and people talk about their success and people talk about, like this person's winning and this person's winning. And I didn't really feel like, I don't ever feel jealousy or like a feeling of comparison where, oh, I'm not at the right level, or I'm not like in the place I need to be yet because I don't have the same level of success as they do. I just kind of felt a little bit like alone and flapping out in the wind, without knowing what were the pieces that I needed to do to get that same level of, success or understanding, or, what were they doing that was different than what I was doing. And in the beginning, it's interesting because a lot of beginners, and they talk about this in all kinds of books, like in Market Wizards and Trading in the Zone, and people talk about so much that like beginners have sometimes some success right off the hop because they go in, they're just trusting, they trust the process, they trust what they're doing, they're trusting the person that they're following. Maybe they click some buttons, they get some quick wins, and they're like, oh wow, this is great, this is so easy, or I can do this. And it starts to plant that seed of belief. And then when they have some losses and they don't understand what they did or what was different about it this time, it can be really challenging because they don't know where to find the answers to like, what is the difference? And so, and then you go through like your education, or you go and follow different people perhaps, and they start to talk about things like homework, or they start to talk about marking up charts. And I did a number of other sessions as well, which were maybe a little bit geared towards beginners, just even how to use TradingView. At the very beginning, I was like, marking up charts, like, okay, I can click this button, but I don't know how to mark up a chart. I don't know how to manipulate this or move this around, or like, what's a Fibonacci? How do you do all of these things that people talk about with such fluency? And so I think one of the greatest teachers that I've had, obviously, is Teresa Guthrie, and her level of patience and the way that she coaches us through doing the work. She takes us through risk management all the time, and it's like the foundation of what we learn with her, and it's so incredibly valuable. And it's amazing to me over this journey, I've almost been doing this for 3 years, the number of people that I've met who I would consider are successful traders. They make a living off of trading, and they do these things, and then you hear of like great losses that they've had, or like that they blow an account when they're several years in. And it just kind of shocks me sometimes, because I wonder, like, how can you do that if you're using proper risk management? And I think it just comes back to either like greed or fear, and the market condition is different on any given different day, in any different minute, it is different. And if you aren't following those sort of foundational structural systems and like patterns of behavior and activity, then that's when things can go sideways. And so number one, obviously risk management is the most critical step and thing to understand. And so I think it's really important to drill that in. Knowing your tools and using your tools and practicing them. There's a number of people who say like they just want to keep watching, they just want to keep watching. And I did that too. I watched different strategies for a long time, and I never, like did the doing. And then in the doing, I learned so much more, to the point where I don't think I could really teach anybody how to trade at this point in my journey, but I can teach you how to use the technicals. I can teach you how to draw the Fibonacci. I can teach you how to do some of the things that have been so foundational for me, but in the doing of it is where I've learned the most. And now layering that on is like helping to teach and helping to share some of the pieces that I've learned. So now in the actual doing of trading, I have an accountability group, and I have an accountability tracker, and there's things that I set goals for myself every week that I have to achieve or want to achieve. And when I don't, then I'm letting myself down. And it's the same thing as breaking the rules or not following my trading plan. And so one of the things that I was saying every week was my goal was to mark up my trades every single week, every trade that I took, whether it was a win or it was a loss, and to analyze it. And then every week at the end of the week, when I was reviewing, I was like, okay, I didn't mark up every trade. Oh, wow. Teresa says that, of course, she was reviewing risk management was the last chapter of their course, not the first chapter. It's incredible. It's incredible how people, can trade and think they can or should, and don't actually implement risk management so much. I agree, Stephanie. I think that the level of teaching and the level of like coaching and bringing people along with us in this community is absolutely incredible. So in my own daily method of operations, I was still like almost negotiating or sacrificing that one piece of marking up my trades and analyzing them. And there's a difference as well, like just marking them up. Where did you take your entry? Why did you enter, things like that, versus actually doing the analysis. And I've shared these documents with you all before, maybe not everyone on this call, but we have a folder full of resources and templates. And so I can share the same thing, but I'm going to share with you a little accomplishment that I just achieved, and it's not massive, but it is for me. And so just this last week, I passed the free demo version of an FTMO challenge. And the reason like I'm still celebrating it, even though it isn't a live challenge, it doesn't mean I have a funded account, is it means that I've been honing my skills to be disciplined enough to meet the criteria of both risk management, which is an absolutely critical part of the metrics that they grade you on, but also I've become profitable enough that I can also pass that. And I did it a couple of days short of the goal that is set for you. So this was really huge for me. And in doing so, I also made the commitment to myself that I was going to mark up and analyze every single trade that I took with a level of like scrutiny that I hadn't been applying consistently in the past. And so this is my simple compounding sheet that I use. And I've created this really for Teresa to be able to share so that people would have a place that they could track their trades, their days in a really simple method and see how they can grow their account over time. And so I started using it and putting it, you know, there's 14 days to do this challenge or this demo, and having it do these calculations for you was really really beneficial. And so, oh, and Jake asked me earlier how this was 1%. It was based on which cell it was taking the value from in here. So I guess it was G12 at that day was 1,024. But so this is like how the days played out. But the most important part of this sheet is the second tab, and it marks up every single one of my trades, but then it's also pulling together all of the data, all of the information about the trades that I've taken, so I can find patterns of my own behavior and look back and review them. And so I do use Janie Trade Helper to help me with my trades. And like a lot of people, I do still sometimes override her settings. And I've had to learn to trust, and this is still like a process of learning to trust different things, because I found that I was panic closing a lot of my trades in profit. I could somehow ride out consolidation like it was no big deal, and could sit there in consolidation for like 20 minutes sometimes. And then it would lose, and I'd be like, why didn't I close it earlier? Or why didn't I take this exit? Or why didn't I do these different things? And Janie helps me do that. But still, sometimes I'd be like, okay, so it went into profit, and then I would close it. And what I found was, after using this sheet multiple times over multiple different kinds of demo courses or demos, and I actually took a live challenge as well in December, and I didn't pass that, but I was able to learn so much more about myself and about the trades I was taking and about my own behavior in those trades by doing this work than anything else that I could have done, and anything that Teresa could have taught me, or anything that anyone else could have said. It was me doing this work and being willing to look at myself and my own like patterns of behavior that taught me so much. So what I learned, and I have here averages. So ultimately, these are all of the trades that I've taken. These are my profits, they're my losses. They're all documented, every single one of them. And I was able to see as well how many minutes it took me in each trade, how long it took me to lose a trade, or how long it took me to win a trade. This is incredible. It took me 20 seconds to gain 10 points, which was a really nice percentage. And, you know, even sometimes you hear Teresa say, like, 10 points, 20 points. When she first started trading, she would go for trades where at least if there was at least 10 points that she could quickly scalp, then she would take them. And so I was able to learn that my average time in a trade now is 4 minutes and 39 seconds. And why that's so miraculous to me is that previously my trades were under 2 minutes. I had like 1 minute and some seconds. It was my average trade because I was panic closing so often. Also, I'm really good at closing trades in drawdown. So I would joke that my account sometimes was like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. And I wouldn't lose ever large amounts because my risk management is always very sound, and I'm only risking 1% on every one of these trades. But if you lose $10, lose $10, lose $10, by the end of the week, that's $50. And so I didn't want to do that anymore. And again, it was like understanding patterns of behavior, understanding what my normal method of operation was, and then being able to assess that and learn how to break it. So if you think about it, it's quite remarkable still that you can have so much success in a small number of minutes. Even this one, which was one of my bigger trades, it was 8 minutes and 48 seconds. And this one down here that almost took me to my passing mark was 11 minutes long. So it's not long to wait. Thank you, Lisa. But without knowing what I was doing wrong before, I wasn't able to correct that behavior moving forward. I track in here, what kind of trailing mode was I in? Did it hit? What kind of exit did I take? What was the first exit? And then I also included like information, and you don't have to do all of this. This was more for my curiosity to see and teach myself about probabilities. Did I import any of this or fill it out manually? So I was able to download from FTMO. You have all of the records of your trades that are down here at the bottom, and you can export it to a CSV file or an Excel file. And so I used Excel. I created the spreadsheet to match the very beginning cells here all line up exactly how the spreadsheet downloads from FTMO. And so I was able to paste in the first several columns and make it very easy. And then I have some conditional formatting in here as well that will say, like, if this is a positive number, it'll turn green. If it's a negative number, it'll turn red. It will tell me if I had in a take profit. It'll tell me a number of different things based on the information that I paste into it. You're welcome. And again, the reason I wanted to put all of these kinds of pieces of information in was to teach myself more about probabilities of success or probabilities overall in relation to the kinds of trades that I was taking. And, if you don't know what you're doing or you don't know why you're doing it, then it's really hard to be able to explain that to anyone else. How do you duplicate your success or your failure? But how do you duplicate your own successes if you don't actually know what you did to do that? And so, I wanted to see too, like, am I getting out too quickly, or what are the different things that I'm doing? Ultimately, I've been able to learn more about myself through this process. At the retreats that we went to, yes, Hannah, it helped me so much. I took 22 trades over the last 2 weeks, and normally that could be like 80. I've had times where I realized like, oh, I took 67 trades this week. That's a lot. And it makes it a lot harder to do this work when you are trading so heavily. And it also means that I would like end up breaking rules to myself, because it's really daunting when you have 13 trades you have to mark up from this morning. And you don't want to necessarily look at them either, because you have to face then your own behavior. You have to face where you spiraled. You have to face where you broke your rules. But it's still ultimately so important. And in here, this is like a little bit of what Jake talks about. It's very simplified because it's in the spreadsheet. But I started including my emotions in the trade. Did I feel confident? Did I feel good about it? was it a good trade, or were there better trades? Being able to look and say, there were better trades in this time frame, or no, I took the best trade. This was the best trade. I identified it, and I was able, like, what did I like about it? What was really good about it? Here, even just putting in my comments, I let Janie fully manage this trade. That was a win for me in some respects. It might not be for everyone, but for me it was. Yeah, Hannah, actually being able to be honest with yourself, some of the greatest growth that I've ever had. Yeah, and Jake, and what's interesting about that too, looking at these trades, they're all rapid fire succession, 1649, 1659. Like, I was trading too much and really like, and when I mark up this chart and I talk about the things I was doing, how was I feeling? I was greedy. I had FOMO. On this first trade, I missed out on some points. I did let Jenny manage it and she did a good job, but I was like, oh man, it went a lot further. And I also recognize in doing this work that I have a very strong sell bias. It's interesting that at the beginning of this, almost every one of my trades is a sell. Only down here at the bottom, when I recognized that I needed to start working on being able to recognize the same trades but opposite for a buy, was I able to start implementing that. And some of them weren't super successful, some of them were. I think ultimately all of my big winners were still sells, but you just, in learning to recognize what the market is giving you. Also, I was able to see in here, there were a lot of trades that were really small, but I saved myself because I recognized that the market was turning around. And I have notes in here about the times when I didn't recognize that the market was turning around. I wasn't looking at what the market was telling me. I was trying to tell the market what I wanted from it. And it doesn't work that way. And so I also have in here my trading view charts. So that was the first one that I showed you guys. You can see that this was the trade that I won some points on, and I wanted more out of it. And then I tried to basically force some trades here. So I took this bearish engulfing, but it wanted to move back up. And I think on the day when I was able to run Teresa's call, I also talked about, yes, thank you, Jake. It's very interesting. I talked about how recognizing when like volume comes out of the market or when more volume comes in. So if buyers come in this area and they have enough strength, there's still a bit of a battle here. Sellers are still pushing price down, but because I was so married to the idea of a sell and this wanting to go further, even though it was telling me here, didn't want to, this is a trap zone. So this was a master candle, but I was still married to my sell bias and price wanted to come up. And because I was so interested in taking those trades, and because I was so convinced that maybe the next trade would be the one that goes, I took several losses that day. But in the past, I could have still made that a lot worse. It could have been a much worse day. I have in here my screenshot that comes from Janie, prints a screenshot and talks about my trade and what kind of exit it was. It says this one is a manual. I think this was the 3 minute, but this is on a 1 minute chart. I don't remember. And then I also sometimes go into MT5 and then I'll remark everything up and I'll draw the Fibonacci on here as well. And I'll really look at, after the fact, when the emotion is out of it, what are my actions telling me that I was doing in this time? So here, this was the 3 minute part where, again, I was still convinced it was going to go down, and it did later. But I can see here clearly that I was forcing it. I was looking for what I wanted, not what it was telling me. So yeah, this is just something that I really encourage everybody to do. And so did anybody bring any of their trades marked up this week that you would like to go over as a group, and we can objectively review them together.
I'll just say, Leah, that I think what you said just recently was key when you look back at it without the emotions in it anymore. I think if you do that, you can sometimes see like, oh, what was I doing just then? And this is why I say on the calls, like the 20 minutes after, or even if you have a break and come back and do those 20 minutes of reevaluating or observing it objectively. Is that what you're calling it? Sorry, I can't get the wording right. Yeah. Like that is where you learn about yourself so much. And that is the key. And I always say the 20 minutes after each trading session, because you can go back. And when you're looking at it without emotion, sometimes like when I do this still, I look at it and be like, why was I doing that? Like, that doesn't make any sense for me to want to be selling here. It's clear that this sign, this sign, this sign, and this sign are all telling me it's going to go turn around and be a buy. But for some reason, in the moment, my emotions were trapping me in my sell bias, and I continued to sell. But you don't realize these things, and you don't make these observations, and you don't learn these things about yourself if you just finish the trading session, close your laptop, and leave, and then come back the next day without doing this observation. And this is why I think you've grown so much, Leah, is because this is so key, and you're doing it, which is where you're learning. So I advise everyone to do it.
I agree. It's really interesting. I've talked with some people recently who I consider quite advanced traders, or people who have quite a lot of knowledge. And sometimes they ask me to help them with certain things. And when they tell me that they aren't doing this work, like there's some people that surprised me when I finally admitted that I didn't have a real trading plan, that I had a set of rules that I kind of followed, that were in my head, but not on paper. It was like a huge admission for me to be able to sort of unburden myself of that secret. And then once I started working on it, and we worked through them at one of the retreats, it was like mind blowing that that simple tool that I didn't see the importance of it, and I didn't see how significant that piece was until I learned what I was missing. And then, people who say, oh, I don't need to mark up my trades because I know why I took it. Well, you kind of do. You know why you took it in the moment, or you thought it was a good trade in that moment. And so win or loss, without actually going back and reviewing it, how do you know what you thought you saw? I have a number of trades in here. I don't know if I'll be able to find one quickly, but where I marked it up. And then I also marked up like the risk to reward on a couple of other trades on the same chart, where if I had just recognized it for what it was in that time, I would have seen something that I didn't see, either because of my bias or because I was married to one thing. There's some in here where the next trade would have been, I don't know if I'm going to find something easily for you. I should have opened some of these up more beforehand. Even here, I wrote myself some notes, not just marking it up, but that I was fearful here. I only took 5 points on this trade, but look, it went well past TP4. So what could I have done differently in that moment? Well, I was still fearful of the sellers coming back in because they had just sold off a lot here, that I didn't trust the buyers to have the strength to continue to push it up. And this had been a day that price ran quite high up. And so even though it might seem like a good trade, being able to understand these things about myself and where my fears come from and being able to recognize it has been just incredible. So I was very surprised by certain people saying that, they don't bother with doing this kind of thing because they already know why they took the trade. And I would love, like, in a way, like challenge them. What could it do for you? How much could you improve? Even if you were at like 80% success rate. And by the way, my trade metrics in here, oopsies, I was so impressed that my win rate overall is over 80%. That is staggering to me. That's something that I never would have known if I didn't take the time and take one of these challenges. Because when you just kind of wing it and you just kind of like throwing it out there and you're not actually tracking any of this stuff, and you're not using a compound calculator, or you're not using a trading journal, then you are selling yourself short, I think, of so much information that you can use. And I was like, holy smokes, if I have an 80% success rate, even though my average loss is greater than my average win in dollars, what does that do for me statistically? How does that like increase my odds of success? It was really, really very remarkable. And so I'm not sharing this with you guys to brag, but I'm sharing it with you with just the idea of like, what could you do and how could you sharpen your pencil and how could you get better at your own like desired outcome, your own goal? How can you achieve that maybe faster or with more fluidity if you look inside of yourself and you do some of this work, you do a little bit of analytics and you do a little bit of maybe introspection, and you look at the things that you're doing now and your patterns of behavior, and then like, what could you do that would maybe be 1% better? And we know the compounding effect. It's so funny. Teresa asked one time on a call, like, if you grew your account 1% a day at the end of a year, how much of a percentage would you have grown your account? And, you know, some people knew there's like 251 trading days in a year or whatever. So maybe they think it's 251%, and it isn't. It's over 1800%, which is incredible because it just compounds. And I'm very excited for, you know, where I would like to see myself go. And I know and I realize that I deserve my goals. I deserve my dreams, and every one of you do too. And I'm so passionate about that because I just want to see everybody win. I want everybody to have the level of success that they deserve.
That's
So
great. Yeah, I would love to dial in more of the technical stuff, just how to put my trading view charts in a spreadsheet. How, because it makes it, you make it look so easy, but it's not to everybody.
yes, well, I'd be happy to share that with you. So if you're doing either FTMO, they do allow you to import your trades directly from here. So I am quite versed in using Excel and using spreadsheets, and I don't want that to be like a limiting factor for anybody else either. And if you use my templates, then it is literally just as easy as copying and pasting. I'll drag this one over. Okay. And so they're all kind of in the opposite order, and we don't need the ticket number. You might want it if you want to include that in. What I do is I copy the first row or first column over. So I have one that's date and one that's time. And I don't take the trade duration in seconds because the spreadsheet already does the math for you of the number of minutes in the trade, because it takes the opening time and the closing time, and then it just subtracts it. And I'd be happy to do that, you know, if you guys want any kind of separate little workshops, or if you want to have like evening breakouts where you can, oh, that's amazing, Anna. Formatted already, spreadsheets are good. Yeah. Yeah, so I changed the formatting a little bit. I come in here and I tell it that I want this to just be the date. So I'm right clicking and I format it to be a date, and however format you like your dates to be. I'll just pick one right now. And then I select this column and this column, and I tell it that I want it to be time with the seconds included. And so it just takes this. How do I import this from Janie? I'll show you that in a minute. Erin, there's a way that Janie can tell us this stuff too, or MT5 does rather. So I literally just take all of this information oops, sorry. First, I also sort it. So I put on a filter up here at the top. What a filter does is it allows me to organize things by keeping the integrity of the rest of the spreadsheet. So it doesn't just sort the date, which if you didn't put a filter on and you just change the organization of the date column, then it will just change that. And then the points and everything else, the profit values, all of that would be in a different order than it was initially. But I can just bring this in and I paste it. We'll do it quickly on here, but I can just paste it right into my spreadsheet. And so change the formatting in here a little bit. I'm going to undo that because I already had it all organized. But this is something that I've made available for you all as a template and am 100% willing to share it. Let's bring MT5 over. And I can show you that with your trade history. Yes?
If you don't mind, can you show me how you copied the times? Like you split that column that had the date and the time so that you could put it into 2 columns. And I don't know if it's because you're on Excel and I'm on a Google sheet, but I can't like just copy the times from that column.
Okay, let me see. Let's undo what I've done here. So I'm just going to put them right into a Google sheet, and then I'll show you how you can do it, I think. Where am I? Sorry, I'm lost for a second. And I can also make very short little tutorial videos about how to do this as well. So if I paste this into here, oops, it has the date and the time. And in Google Sheets, if you select the cells that you want and then you format them, you can choose how you want it to be formatted. So with a number, here we have dates and times. And so if I just change it to date, oh, it's not doing it. Oh, heck. Sorry. Okay. I will Google this myself and I will figure out how to do it. I'm certain there's a way. But with yeah, I prefer Excel. I use Excel. I will figure out a way to do it for Google Sheets and share it with you once I know.
Thank you. Our poor Mac users appreciate it. So we don't have Excel.
You can. Microsoft is available for Apple, but yeah, it's not free. So so this is my trade history from MT5. And it also has the feature of being able to give you reports of the things that you've done. So if you right click anywhere here in your history and go to report, you can open it up in Excel or you can open it up in HTML and it'll just download it. I'm replacing it. And so you can see here as well, it also has a record of your trade history. And that's really, really cool because I know that I've been on calls with Amy where she's like, oh, it's great that you're able to download that, but I'm not able to do that. And in fact, you are, and it'll still tell you all this information, you know, MUS, DLO, buy. These are the buys and the sells. So each deal, your stops and your take profits or whatever, but it does the same thing and it gives you this little, you know, tracker of your account balance over time and also your win rates and stuff like that. So it's really interesting that we actually have this information available to us, whether you take a challenge or you don't, and it's just a record of your trades from MT5.
Hey, Leah, if you just want to go to the Google Sheets quickly.
Yeah.
And go to the date and time you had there. Oh, you've gotten rid of it.
It's okay. I can put it back.
And then you go to data.
Yes.
And then you can go to split text to columns. Yep. And then all, there you go. And if like sometimes in CSV files, like the columns are separated by a comma. And so you can just right click and change it. So it separates them by spaces, separates them by commas, separates them by points, whatever it is. So that's how you can do that for Google Sheets.
Amazing. Thank you, Jake.
You're welcome. Hope that helps, Teresa.
That should, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because I learned first on Excel, I haven't learned all the tips and tricks for Google Sheets.
Yeah, I was the same. I was very avid on Excel, and then I got a Chromebook, and so then I had to learn them all on Google Docs. They're all pretty much the same. It's just slightly different ways.
Yeah, the functionality's there. Okay. And how do I import it from Janie? Okay, so did that share with you, Aaron, where you can get the same information from MT5? Let me know if you think, awesome. Okay, if you have any other questions, or if there's anything else that you want to show me, or you want me to show you, pardon me, I'm happy to do that. If nobody brought any trades that they want to go over and analyze, that's okay too. But I really do encourage you, do this work. It is so valuable, and it is like, I can't wait to hear and see all of the different success stories come out of this community and come out of this group, because people are willing to do the work and they're wanting to put in the effort. Every single one of you deserve your success. Yes, Jake's journal. I also had the pleasure of reading it before he released it, and it is wonderful. Do we all use MT5? Is it better than MT4? A lot of us are using MT5, Lisa, because we're using Janie, the trade helper. And so her coding is available on MT5. But I don't know if it's better or worse than MT4. I've used both desktop versions, and they're both a little bit clunky, I guess. It's the kind of the interface that's like old 90s style. But once you get in the rhythm of using them, working with them can be a lot easier. And I found that even being able to draw a fib on a candle or whatever, it's a little bit different than how we do it on TradingView. However, it's fairly easy once you get the hang of it. Yeah, just looks a little bit more old school. Is there anything else that I can share with you? Patiently waiting for your journal to arrive. Oh yeah, it's so exciting. Can't wait to get one too.
Yeah, Amazon's been a bit of a mess around and really made things difficult for me. So all of you who've ordered one and are patiently waiting, I appreciate your patience, but feel free to message me, let me know like if you're in waiting and all that sort of stuff, because I do my best to make sure everyone actually gets a copy, whether it's through Amazon or another print on demand service that I'm going to do, and just make sure that everyone actually gets the value there, because yeah, Amazon's really not helping me, but I don't want that to affect you guys. So just feel free to send me a private message if you have, or you're still waiting or anything like that.
Okay. Well, if nobody has any questions, nobody has any trades that they want to go over from this week, I could probably wrap it up there. I really appreciate you all. Thank you for being here with me this Sunday morning. I hope you got some value from this. And if you don't already have the template folder, then please reach out to me on Facebook Messenger, and I will forward the link to you privately. I'm not gonna like put it out on like YouTube or anything like that, but this call will be it is recorded, and so it'll be shared in the group as well. And if there's anything that I can ever do to add more value, if you guys think that you'd be willing to do the work together and mark up your charts together and go over and do objective analysis as a team, I am on board for doing that with you guys, either as a group or maybe like small groups, maybe like 5 people, do like a little homework session and kind of get the ball rolling for you, and then send you off on your way. And I think there'd be a lot of value if there were small groups of people who wanted to work together on a regular basis. I know that there are some people who are still waiting for, to find their perfect accountability partner. I think that there's people who are willing but haven't really like put their hand up or said. And so just again, I think anytime that you engage and anytime that you work together with more people, and the thing that's so beautiful to me about this community of people, and why I love so much going to the retreats, is that everyone was essentially a stranger. We have a little bit of knowledge of each other because we see each other's names on the Zoom calls, or we, engage in the group together. But when you all come together and you all are goal oriented and you all have, like a drive to improve yourself, you already have so much more in common with these people. It's so amazing. Like, this community is incredible, and I value all of you so much. And so, yeah, I think small groups would be excellent. That's fantastic. Accountability. Yes.
I think it's a great idea. If people maybe contact you or myself who want accountabilities, and then we could sort of like do a session at like this, but more active. And then as people sort of start to join, they could break off into like groups of 2, 3, or 4 as they sort of join together, and as people grow and come, send them on their ways. Because I think it's really nice to have that small group of people who are similar sort of drive as you, let's say. It doesn't have to be same skill level, but if you've got the same drive and you're at the same place, still wanting to do the same objective work together, then I think it's really, really powerful. Much easier, I think, when you've got 3 or 4 than a big group. So I think as people come in, it'd be nice to sort of get them doing the work as a whole group, and then as they sort of feel like they're independent enough, they could break off with accountability small groups. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree. And thank you so much, Leah. I definitely would be interested in an accountability group, because as you know, I do really well like for 3 days, but it's really cool because I used to do really well for 1 day and then drop off second. Then I was doing really well for 2 days and then drop off. So now I'm up to 3 days of doing really well before I do overtraining. So accountability would be, what group would be really awesome. Thank you.
You are welcome. I think that, like, I've been the same as you. I've had times where I'm like, oh my gosh, look at me. I'm going to be a millionaire trader in a year. And then I'm like, oh man, look at like that mindset that all of a sudden everything else starts to crumble. And the idea of like euphoria, and then what's the word? I don't know, like a crash. Like, you still have all of these like battles. And I think it's like kind of reducing the vibration and reducing the amount of like volatility essentially within those range of emotions, and being able to just kind of tighten them and get them squeezed down to where you can say like, okay, I recognize I had a win last week. That's fantastic. Now, what are the things that I'm going to do every single day that are going to help me maintain that consistency? Because that was why I put the quote in the banner, that success doesn't come from the things that you do sometimes, it comes from the things that you do consistently. And so I look forward to having little breakouts with all of you. Yes, Lisa, life 100% gets in the way of even the best intentions. Even this, having 22 trades in 2 weeks, I'm so proud of that. That is like unheard of in Leah land, because I click that button sometimes so many times. What am I doing?
You've done greatly. I'm really proud of you as well.
Thank you so much. Okay, you all have a beautiful rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the call with Teresa. And thank you all for being here.
Bye.